Picture a geographic territory, a government apparatus, and a population of citizens, but with zero rules connecting them. The result is erratic friction. To turn these isolated elements into a functioning political entity, a set of supreme rules is an absolute necessity. The Constitution acts as this central, algorithmic rule set, binding the disparate entities together. Regardless of whether that government operates as a democracy, a monarchy, or an autocracy, this blueprint creates the boundary dictating the mechanics of citizen-state dynamics. For those mastering political systems for civil service exams or structural analysis, simple definitions are insufficient. We must deconstruct the actual theory of constitutions. This deconstruction involves examining precise academic definitions, identifying the 6 structural pillars of statecraft, and mapping global classification axes. Success in this field relies on understanding the mechanical parameterization of how power is distributed and constrained, which goes deeper than the mere memorization of laws. A constitution's value is derived from its functional capacity to organize the state machinery. To see how, we look to the foundational scholars who defined this framework. Professor A.V. Dicey defines the Constitution as the specific mechanism that regulates the division and execution of supreme power within a state. Dicey notes that this execution of power occurs via a combination of direct and indirect rules. Professor R.N. Gilchrist offers a broader perspective, defining the Constitution as the collection of fundamental laws, whether those laws are written or unwritten. Gilchrist adds a mechanical layer. The Constitution dictates the state machinery, distributes authority among government branches, and establishes the principles for utilizing that authority. Both scholars agree that a constitution acts as the primary distributor and regulator of governmental power. We synthesize these definitions into 6 non-negotiable functional outputs. First, it serves as the aggregate of foundational rules. Second, it defines the system of governance. Third, it clarifies the state machinery's structural nature. Fourth, it outlines the specific nature and primary objectives of the government. Fifth, it executes the distribution of power across different branches. And sixth, it enshrines citizen rights, duties, and their relationship with the state. If a document or a set of traditions fulfills these 6 criteria, it functions as a constitution. This framework allows us to classify how different nations achieve these goals. Global constitutional systems are classified using a triaxial taxonomy. Axis 1 measures origin. Enacted constitutions are deliberate blueprints constructed by a dedicated constituent assembly at a specific time. Evolved constitutions are not engineered in a single moment. They grow organically from historical customs, traditions, and practices over centuries. This leads to Axis 2, form. Enacted constitutions are almost always written constitutions, requiring formal drafting and specific amendment procedures. Conversely, evolved constitutions are typically unwritten constitutions, built on uncodified social customs and precedents. This dense, archaic script illustrates the evolved, unwritten track, the Constitution of England, which draws on historical precedent rather than a single assembled document. A constitution's origin dictates its physical form. It is either an assembled blueprint or a continuous, layered history. The third axis is mutability, which measures the difficulty of changing the rule set. This chamber illustrates a flexible constitution. In England, the amendment process is highly accessible, often requiring just a standard legislative vote to alter unwritten constitutional precedent. Scholars note that this ease of change can sometimes result in political instability. Rigid constitutions occupy the opposite end of the axis, requiring complex and specialized procedures to pass an amendment. The mutability axis determines a state's balance between necessary adaptability and structural permanence. View these paradigms as 2 distinct state machines. On the left, the evolved, unwritten, flexible machine is driven by overlapping gears of tradition. On the right, the enacted, written, rigid machine operates from a geometric blueprint. Both successfully output the exact same thing. A constitution's definition is not determined by its physical document or its origin story, but by its functional capacity to regulate power and organize the state. Mastering this classification equips the analyst to evaluate geopolitical systems and address complex civil service exams. Whether evolved over centuries or enacted in a day,
The Constitution acts as the invisible gravity holding the state's chaotic elements in a functioning orbit.